All right, here we are. It's What's Up Wednesday. Come in from our kitchen. We got some treats for you. But before we get started on today's exercises, I just want to go back over some of the things that we finished up yesterday after we were done filming. What do you want to show first? The Pop-Tart. The Pop-Tart. Here's our Pop-Tarts that we made with y'all. I went back and did the glaze again without the brown vanilla, and it looks a little bit better in my opinion. That I think is the only one left here. I think the other ones have been consumed. The other item that we had was the cottage cheese dill bread, which was actually a recipe from the Wesleyan Potters in Middletown, Connecticut back in the 1970s. This was the whole loaf. That was the kind of remainder that I did after the shoot. We cut that up and had that this morning for breakfast. That's an amazing bread. Also, you know, made from this starter that we've been just keep working off the starter. We keep taking our cast off and we add it to our doughs and our breads. And today I'm going to show you a waffle batter that we have for that. Because we're doing chicken and waffles. I'm going to show you two different ways to do chicken tenders and chicken nuggets. One of them is an oven bake and one of them is a top of the oven fry. Not my preference, but I know there were some kids out there that were hungry for McDonald's and their parents weren't going to go there. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to make this at home, showing you standard breading procedure. So there's a lot of good cooking techniques here today, but I'm going to start with this waffle batter because I want to get that in. Last time we weren't able to complete the waffle, and this is the recipe. I can't remember if I put it up before on our YouTube channel, John and Heather Perfetto over on YouTube. I'm going to put this one up for you today, but after we're done shooting here, if you all can hop on over there and give us some likes and subscribes, that would really help out a lot. So I put all the dry ingredients in here, and then I added the butter, the milk, the vanilla, and the egg yolks, because to make this batter really fluffy, you want to whip up the egg whites. And I know I did this, I think, one of our first videos, but it bears repeating. To really get the air into the waffle and give it that beautiful, like, Belgian crust, you're going to create that leavening along with the starter. I'm going to include that in that recipe because this was my dad's recipe, and I added the starter to it, and I think it really gives the crust a crispy golden.
How many whites is that?
This is one. Well, it's going to be two for the recipe that I give you, but this amount of batter that we made is going to be one. And I have a kid home from college right now who comes down at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon for breakfast, and so he's probably going to consume these waffles. But I'm going to make chicken and waffles for everybody else, or just chicken if you don't want to have the waffles. But this batter is really great. So I'm going to get that in, and then John, you're going to be my eyes on this because when I go on, I'm not going to be able to keep up with it. So try to keep like your left eye, your good eye, and keep your good eye on this.
How much you put in that?
I'd say that's probably 1.5 to 2 cups. This is a pretty big square waffle maker. It depends on the size of your waffle maker and how big you want them. So let's give that. Usually when it stops steaming, it has a green light now because that meant it was up to temperature, but when it stops steaming, that usually means the waffle's ready. So you keep your eye on that, and we're gonna come back to that. I just want to make sure I don't lose my. Okay. So the next thing that I'm going to give you is this little side dish that Jaden did for me when he came home. He's in Kitchen Fundamentals at Culinary Institute of America. So we had this little carrot dish. So if you want to go do a dinner instead of waffles, you could do some glazed carrots. I think the kids would eat that, and this might be one way to get a vegetable in them. I took these carrots and I peeled them. I just have 2 carrots here, and I'm cutting them on what's called the bias. So instead of straight cutting the carrot, straight cutting, I've turned it to an angle, and this is called cutting it on a bias. Now I'm cutting them pretty thinly because we're going to drop them into, this was 2 carrots, and this is about a cup of simmering stock. This is the stock that I've had going. Whenever I cook, I try to make a stock because that gives you the layers that your vegetables or your food needs. Everything is built on top of it. So here, you can go back here and see how it's steaming. Not ready yet, but steaming, okay? So we're going to let this cook a little bit. I want to season the carrots. Definitely season the carrots with salt and pepper. Salt and a little pepper. Okay, and this stock is going to get them to poach, cook a little bit, simmer. And then we're going to add a little bit of butter and some of the cinnamon sugar to those carrots. And I think your kids are going to really enjoy those. All right, so the next step here is I'm going to show you how to make these chicken fingers. All right, so to do that, I have boneless chicken breast, and yes, there will be hand washing in this video today. And when it comes like this, you might think that it's all ready, but they've done this tricky thing where they've sold you these 2 little pieces of fat, and inside here, this lovely piece of like rib cartilage, which is not very appetizing. So I take those off, and that goes right in my stock pot right there. Okay, one more time on this one. They make money off of this fat because, I mean, you could render it down and use it for cooking, but I just put it into stock. So take that off, and then this very unattractive piece of how the chicken was attached to the rib, that goes in there too. Now, there's also this white cartilage. This is the inside. So this was like this is the chicken breast like this. This is how it goes on the chicken. It's this way. So this is 2 of them, and they cut down the middle. But what they don't do is they don't take this cartilage, this is what's attached to the breastbone, out of both sides. So that's another piece that can go in the stock. Now these chickens are really big. Most chickens that you get in the market are only 5 months old, if you can believe that. So they have pumped these chickens up to make the breast bigger for you because everybody wants the boneless breast, of course. So for the strips, what I did was I cut this in half, not quite in half, and I got 4 strips out of it here. All right, I'm just going to set that off to the side because I want to finish cutting the rest of it. This one I'm going to cut into what we're going to make out of our nuggets. So I'm going to make them a little bit small because I want them to fry completely in that oil. I don't want to have to take them to the oven afterwards, but that is an option. So, all right, so out of 1 chicken breast, we're going to get 4 beautiful strips. They're going to come out like those that we first showed you. And we're going to get about 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 nuggets here. I'm just going to kill that and go back to that. All right, so the first step, which I consider to be maybe the more healthier version of a chicken strip, chicken nugget, is I have this melted butter right here. And I have these panko breadcrumbs. But I like to take the panko breadcrumbs and pulsate them a little bit more in the Cuisinart because they're not as fine as I like them to be. And then to them, I also add Parmesan cheese and Cajun mix. And salt and pepper in this. So the breadcrumbs taste like nothing when you get them out of canister. So I add Parmesan cheese and Cajun mix and salt and pepper. And I think I put a little dry basil in this one as well. So left hand stays wet, right hand does dry. That's like a big tip when we get to the standard breading that I'm going to show you how you're going to really need to employ this technique. So left hand stays wet in the butter, right hand stays dry in the breadcrumbs. And you want to kind of press them into it a little bit. Not mutilate it, but all right, great. Good job. So, and shake the crumbs down so that you get a nice even coating. And the reason I didn't get a bigger plate and fill this up with crumbs is because once the raw chicken has touched your butter and touched your breadcrumbs, you can't use that for anything else. You can put this in the refrigerator. It's not really a good idea. So I don't like to waste it, but I think the birds are going to get that. The little chickadees outside are going to get that. So then with this extra butter, because I don't want to waste it, you don't have to do this option. You can do this. It's not necessary. All right. So then that's going to go into the oven. Can you reach in and grab that? 4 hands. All right. So this is going to go into a 385-degree oven for 20 to 25 minutes, and I'll give you those instructions over on our YouTube channel. All right. So let's put that aside because the next step is going to be standard breading. What is standard breading? Oh, wait, no, I need to go. I do need this. So standard breading is everything goes in seasoned flour. So this is just regular all-purpose flour with salt and pepper. An egg wash. I'm going to use 2 eggs with about a tablespoon of water. And you want to mix that up, break all that yolk up and all that white. These are from our chickens out back. Oops, sorry for the noise. So they're really bright yellow. There was a huge egg discussion on Facebook. Everybody had to see it because I can't imagine how many comments were on. Somebody posted a picture of 18 eggs being $6 and change, $6.57 I think it was, I should know, $6.57 at Adams, and they were outraged at how much the eggs were, and they thought that they were gouging, and everybody wanted them reported. And I never saw so many people comment on the price of eggs.
It's almost 500 people right now.
500 people
have commented on
it. Yeah, I wish 500 people would watch us. Here's the deal. It's Easter. Eggs are always more expensive at Easter. It's about supply and demand. I'm also going to encourage you to go to our Facebook page, Sean Heather Perfetto, because I posted there an article from the Chicago Tribune that was about what farmers and poultry farmers and dairy farmers are doing during this pandemic, and you're not even going to believe what is happening to the plethora of food that they have that they're not selling now to restaurants, schools, hotels, resorts. I mean, it's disgusting, because you'd think, well, everybody's standing in line for food somewhere, why can't we just get them that food? But the cost of raising that food and getting it to market and changing their processing plants would outweigh the benefit of donating it. You know, these farmers said, we're not in the business to just be a nonprofit charity. So check that article out, because it's really interesting. And I think that one of the things that's going to come out of this is we're going to have to get our minds together globally to figure out what to do with the food insecure and these farms that are only set up to process food in one way. It's a really fascinating read. It's one of my passions, farm to table. Check it out. All right, so we're going to go back to this method, standard breading. So standard breading, again, left hand stays dry, right hand's going to be wet. So this one, you want to get all the pieces covered in flour, and then you want to shake off the excess, okay? And you could just do this in like small pieces at a time, small batches at a time. And I'm going to do a little trick here, because you want to be able to maneuver it around in there. So I'm going to shake this off, okay? And then these guys I'll leave in the bowl while I move these guys over. So now my right hand is going to make sure that they're evenly coated in egg batter. Standard breading, standard breading. This is a classic culinary preparation. And then, thank you, and then they're going to go into my breadcrumbs, my seasoned breadcrumbs over here. Now this hand is going to come over and move these guys over. All right, and I need another dish. I can't go into the raw dish. Can you grab me a dish?
Sure. Trying to stay on the.
I know. I'm trying to keep the contaminated. Yeah, just put it right next to there. I'm trying to keep contaminated raw chicken away from everything else. All right. Shh. Why are you making that noise? Okay. So you want to make sure that these get coated evenly with breadcrumbs. And I don't have quite enough breadcrumbs. If you want to shake some more of that for me. All right, so evenly coat that. This is my dry hand, and you'll see what will happen if you don't keep this one hand wet and one hand dry. Those aren't really ground up as much as I want them to be. Well, deal with it. Maybe I don't need to make any more. All right, so if I brought this hand in here, and I'm going to do this, and then we're going to have a public service announcement because I'm going to have to wash my hands. Now I have like all of this breading on both my fingertips. So imagine if you were in a restaurant and you were breading like 10 trays of chicken cutlets for chicken parmesan, you would have, fat fingers full of bread. So that's why one hand stays dry, one hand stays wet. This will be enough for my demonstration, and then I'll finish those later on. I'm going to wash my hands, so Don, give them a message.
Okay, so we sell eggs, and this morning I got a call from my friend Ed Dusick, and Ed wanted me to save him some eggs because we're selling out quickly. We sell, we get a couple dozen every, about a couple dozen a day. So he said you got to mention me as a sponsor. So this hand washing moment is brought to you by retired Army Sergeant Ed Dusick.
Okay, beautiful. All right, so we want to get your oil in the back, and this is why I hate frying at home. If you're frying in a restaurant, a fryolator is going to have a thermostat that's going to bring it up to temperature, and make it exactly what you need it to be there. So I didn't want to come on. If you go too hot, the oil's going to smoke and burn, and if you're not hot enough, it won't give you the crispy, crusty outside. So it shouldn't take that long to come up.
What are you trying to get to?
We want to get to between 350 and 360, ideally. That's temperature that is going to fry. And then we're going to drop those chicken nuggets in there. The one thing I want to mention, sure, go ahead, show the waffle. Here's a waffle that came out of there. Beautiful waffle. Nice. Good job on the waffle. Cut that just in time. The one thing that I do, I'm going to go behind you one second. One thing I want to mention about frying is you can't throw a big batch of food into a little fryolator what we're calling our fry later at one time, because the cold chicken is going to bring the temperature of that oil down. So you're going to want to fry it in a couple of batches. Let's see what we got here. 340 on my old eyes. This is why frying at home, unless you have a tabletop fryer. I mean, if you have a tabletop fryer, go for it, you know. This is why it's so hard to fry at home, because you've got to get that temperature just right. Now you need a thermometer. I didn't do it in a big pot because I don't want to have all this wasted oil. I just used whatever this brand canola oil is. But, you know, once you use the oil, it's kind of shot, and you can hold it on the counter and use it again for frying, but it will go bad after months of not being used. All right, we're just about there. So I'm going to take these guys. Now be careful when you're putting the stuff in the oil. Don't like plop it in the oil because it's going to splatter and get all over you. Don't get water in the oil like I just did, because that's going to splatter too. So I'm just going to do 2 or 3 of these at a time, because if I dump all of this in there, you're going to see the temperature of my oil is going to shoot down. Right now it's like at a beautiful 360. So I'm going to lower it a little bit. I think it's just going to keep going up. So we're cooking this until they're golden. I have like a slotted spatula here to drain them. And you'll see, like, now see how bubbly it is right now? When they get closer to being finished, those bubbles are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller and less. You're going to be able to see the food more. But, you know, move it around a little bit. If we had a fry later in the restaurant, we'd be shaking the basket. And then I'm going to see, if it's too hot, it's going to burn without cooking in the center. So the trick for that is you're going to finish in the oven. So I'm going to take these out like this, and I'm just putting them on a little paper plate, a plate with a little paper towel. And then, those look pretty good. And then I'm going to go back. I'm using tongs so that I'm not touching the raw chicken. I can do 3. I just want to see the inside of one. And how do you know if it's cooked? You get a thermometer, a meat thermometer, and take the temperature of it. Wow, I happen to have one right here. It should be 165. You might have to put 2 of them together on a piece like this. So it's 125, 130, 133, 134, 136, 137. That's not cooked, all right? I know it's not. I could tell when I stuck the thing in it, but I'll just show you what it looks like inside. This is the biggest one, so I'll show you. See, it's completely raw on the inside there. See the pink and you do not want to eat that. So we are going to have to finish these off in the oven, but it won't take that long. All right. So let's get the last 2 in here. Finish them off. That's a beautiful nugget. Except for the raw part. Alright, this might not be something for the kids to do, because this grease is, I mean, that's 360 degrees. That's pretty hot. And see how I have it on the back of the stove? I don't have it on the front of the stove because, and I'll demonstrate this, if it's on the front of the stove, you run the risk of hitting that, someone coming along knocking it, and splattering it all over, which is terrible. And just as a public service reminder, do not throw water on a grease fire. If you happen to overflow this and cause I have a gas stove, so I have flame underneath. If you cause it to overflow and burn, you want to cover the source of the air and not throw water on it. All right, I'm gonna go with these here. Now they're gonna need a pan to go in the oven. The paper towel is not gonna go in the oven. Just the chicken nuggets are gonna go in the oven. Perfect. I'm just going to pick them up, toss them into there. And like I said, if you have a thermometer, that would be great, but now you're going to get an opportunity, since you cut this one, you'll be able to peek at that. I'm going to estimate it's probably going to need like 7 to 10 minutes. So let's see what we got here. Throw that in there, that guy. And let's go back over to our carrots. All right, so our carrots we're cooking, I just turned them off for the sake of the camera. And you want to get them soft. So let's bring them back up to the picture again. Come on. If I walk away, it'll catch fire and burn. If I stand here, it won't cook. That's a watch pot never boils. We all know that. Oh, so I want to make sure I turn off the grease in the back there too. Once this gets going a little fast. It's a trick to get it going faster. There's a lot more heat on the side of the pan than the bottom of the pan, so you could tilt your liquid to reduce it down there and get it hotter. Down here too. This is an emerald pan. I don't know. I mean, it cooks okay. It's really good for cooking vegetables, but it just doesn't clean well. I mean, I've scrubbed this pan rock solid scrubbed. It just doesn't clean well. It never seasoned right. It does have a nice bottom to it, but I didn't run out and get another Emerald Lagasse pan. And I don't know if you know this, but John and I actually sat at the food bar of the Emerald show. God, when was that, like 20
About 20 years ago.
20 years ago. We got the seats that were right at the bar because our liquor distributor, Noel Ginsberg, was able to get us the tickets down in New York City, and that was really quite a treat to watch what was happening there. Full disclosure, he didn't do any of this cooking that you see me doing. He had 3 women who did all of his prep and came out and set up the whole stage and told them what he was going to do next. You're going to put the salmon in the pan, you're going to get the vegetable, you're going to do that, you're going to do this, and you'd be like, okay. He really...
He was a deer in a headlight.
Yeah, he really didn't have much personality. Once the camera was on, he did his like routine, but he just didn't, I don't know, he wasn't very warm and friendly to the rest of the people. All right, so these carrots are soft now, and what we're going to do is we're going to throw this butter in, a couple pieces so that it melts down. Get that to melt in there. And the cinnamon sugar. I mean, you could do without the sugar, or you don't want to do the sugar. You could do Splenda. You could do a substitute. You could do just plain cinnamon. You could do no cinnamon. And then this is going to make a little glaze in the pan. I bet this is a carrot you'll be able to get your kids to eat. A little bit more, just so it doesn't cook. What do we do next? We taste it. I'm not going to taste it because it's hot, but I'm not going to. All right, so there's a little side dish that you could serve with these chicken fingers or chicken nuggets. You could take this waffle like you have here and put a couple chicken nuggets on it. You know, put a little syrup on that. That's a nice like breakfast dinner meal. I think people in the house are going to have that tonight. You could take the nuggets and you could serve them with ketchup. You could serve them with barbecue sauce. You could serve them with honey mustard. Honey mustard is equal parts of honey and mustard. Barbecue sauce is whatever barbecue sauce you have, sugarless or not. Ketchup is ketchup. You can get sugar-free ketchup too. You know, whatever the kids like. But I guarantee you the adults are going to like these chicken nuggets as well. I'm going to kill that there. That made a real nice glaze on that in there. All right, so today is What's Up Wednesday. What's Up Wednesday? What's Up Wednesday for you today? I was talking yesterday about how I was measuring time, and I came across this today. It is don't count the days, make the days count. And I thought that was really interesting. So this afternoon before I came on, I went out and I planted my entire greenhouse and my cold garden with spinach and bok choy and leeks and scallions. I planted parsley, coriander, a couple lettuces, some flowers that'll come up later and I'll transplant into the pots out back. I'm holding off on the tomatoes and the peppers. It's just not quite warm enough for those yet, or basil, so I didn't plant those from seed yet. But it's a good time if you have a windowsill to put up a couple things, and if you have a box outside, it's time to put the cold vegetables out into the garden and be pleasantly surprised in 2 weeks. Today, John is going to mention...
All right, today we're going to talk about Napoli Deli. Craig and Liz Carr own Napoli Deli over on Bridgeport Ave, 982 Bridgeport Ave. Great breakfast sandwiches and lunch. They do an amazing lunch business. He's a catering, and most notable about the Carr family is their son Dan, who used to work for us. We love Dan. Dan Carr is a great guy. He's working at he's the master brewer at Thimble Islands Brewery. So next time you enjoy a Thimble Islands beer, think of Dan. And if you're want to head out for a sandwich, go over to Napoli Deli. They're doing curbside pickup, and support the local guy. And back to you, Heather.
All right, here's my beautiful carrots. I turned them out. You can see they have that lovely sauce glaze down there at the bottom. We're going to serve those tonight too. I also wanted to mention one other step that you could do. Another trick for this is you can dip your raw chicken nuggets in mayonnaise, which you can season any way you want. Dip them in mayonnaise before the breadcrumb. Then you skip the flour, and you skip the egg, and you skip the butter, mayonnaise. And you could do this with low-fat mayonnaise, sugar-free mayonnaise, salt-free mayonnaise, homemade mayonnaise. And then dip the cubes into the breadcrumbs, and then that will be a baking presentation. That will not be a frying presentation. You'll finish those off in the oven to bake. But that's all we have for you today until we eat again. Thank you.